She looked at me, and tears just fell from her eyes. She whispered something.
The rain had been falling since morning, the kind of slow, persistent rain that soaks into everything, cobblestones, coats, and memories alike. I was late. My boots splashed through puddles as I rushed toward the old archive building on the edge of the city, the one with iron gates and ivy-covered walls that most people had forgotten existed. I was a historian by profession, though my colleagues often called me an obsessive. I specialized in lost letters, correspondence between people separated by war, distance, and time. It was quiet, solitary work, exactly the kind I preferred. I pushed open the heavy door and shook the rain from my coat. The archive was dimly lit, smelling of aged paper and cedar. Rows of shelves stretched back into shadow. And there, at the front desk, sat a woman I had never seen before. She had long silver blonde hair, pale and luminous even in the low light. She wore a structured green jacket, the kind that suggested she was someone who carried herself with quiet authority. Her eyes were fixed on a document in front of her, and she didn't look up when I entered. "Excuse me," I said. "I have an appointment. Elias Bourne." She looked up, and something happened that I couldn't explain then and still struggle to explain now. Her eyes, a soft, silver green, went wide. Her lips parted, and then, slowly, tears began to fall down her face.
She didn't sob.
She didn't make a sound. She simply stared at me as if I were a ghost she had been waiting her whole life to see. "Are you all right?" I asked, stepping forward. She pressed her hand over her mouth and stood slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. It's just, you look exactly like him." "Like who?" She wiped her eyes quickly, composing herself with visible effort. "My name is Seraphine. I'm the head archivist here." She extended her hand. "And you look like a man in a photograph my mother kept on her nightstand for 30 years. I shook her hand, confused and unsettled in a way I couldn't name. "A photograph? Please," she said softly. "Come with me." She led me through the archive, past rows of sealed boxes and glass cases, to a small back office. On the desk sat a wooden box, old and worn at the corners. She opened it carefully and removed a photograph, black and white, slightly faded, and held it out to me. I stared. The man in the photograph could have been my twin. Same jaw, same brow, same way of holding his shoulders like he was bracing against wind. He was standing in front of a train station, smiling at someone off camera, his coat collar turned up. "Who is this?" I asked quietly. "His name was Daniel Vaughan," she said. I felt the floor tilt slightly beneath me.
Vaughan.
My name. My father's name. My grandfather's name. "Where did your mother get this?" I asked. Seraphine sat down slowly. "My mother, Alara, was 17 when she met a young man at the border during the evacuation of 1943. His name was Daniel. They spent 3 days together, hiding, traveling, surviving. She said those 3 days were the most alive she had ever felt."
She paused.
Then they were separated. She never saw him again. I sat across from her, my hands flat on the table. My grandfather's name was Daniel Vaughan. He crossed the border in 1943. He never spoke much about the war, but I know he survived it barely. Seraphine's breath caught. "She wrote him letters," she said. "For 30 years, she wrote letters she never sent because she didn't know where to send them. She kept his photograph. She described him to me in detail, the way he laughed, the way he said her name like it meant something sacred." Her voice broke. "She died 2 years ago. She never stopped hoping she'd find out what happened to him. The silence between us was the kind that holds entire lifetimes." Did she ever marry?" I asked.
"She did."
"A good man." "My father." She loved him genuinely. Seraphine smiled through tears. But she always said there was a piece of her heart she had left at a train station in the rain, with a boy who made her believe the world would survive. I reached into my satchel slowly and removed the folder I had brought to the archive that day. I had come to research a specific set of wartime letters that had been donated recently. I slid the folder across the table and opened it. Inside were letters. Letters written in careful, precise handwriting. Letters addressed to a woman named Alara. Letters that had never been sent because the man who wrote them had lost her address in the chaos of the crossing. My grandfather's letters. Seraphine stared at them. Then she pressed both hands over her heart and wept, not with grief, but with something far more complicated. Something that looked like relief. Like the closing of a wound that had been open for decades. He looked for her, I said softly. He never forgot her either. She reached out and touched the edge of the letters gently, as if they were made of something fragile and sacred. She always said that if the universe was kind, someday the loose thread would be found. She looked up at me with those silver-green eyes, still wet with tears. I think she sent you to me. I didn't have an answer for that. Some things aren't meant to be answered, only felt. We sat in that small back office for a long time, two strangers connected by the love of people who had lived and lost and hoped. Outside, the rain continued to fall. But inside, something that had been incomplete for 30 years finally, quietly, became whole. And I understood then that some stories don't end. They simply wait for the right person to arrive and finish reading them.